We are literally building the ghosts of our own minds into the world all around us. It's happening piece by piece, line by code. Today, we're going to explore exactly how this shadow of reality is taking shape, and more importantly, what it means for all of us. So let me just start with a really big question. Is the world you see actually real? It seems simple, right? But the answer is, well, it's anything but. Because what you perceive as this solid, objective reality is actually a carefully constructed story. And it's a story being told to you by your own brain. That story has some pretty profound consequences for the future we're all building together.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start right inside your own head and look at how your brain literally builds your world. Then we'll zoom out to the collective stories we all tell ourselves. After that, things get a little weird. We'll explore a strange mirrored dimension that science is just beginning to hint at. And finally, we'll see how all of this comes crashing together in the form of artificial intelligence.
All right, first up, your experience of the world isn't some perfect high-definition recording. Nope, it's an active, ongoing creation. It's your brain's constant best guess about what's really out there. Check this out. This is the first layer of the illusion. The light hitting the back of your eye, your retina, actually projects an image of the world that's completely upside down. Your brain is working tirelessly every second to flip it right side up for you, creating the stable view. So what you're seeing isn't pure reality. It's more like a corrected user interface.
So how does the brain build its model? Well, it's constantly making predictions. It's always guessing what's about to happen next. And when the sensory data coming in doesn't match its guess, it generates something called a prediction error. This signal is basically learning. It's the little alarm bell that goes off in your head that says, hey, pay attention, something new is happening.
But what happens when that signal goes haywire? Well, reality itself can start to break. Researchers believe that in the early stages of psychosis, this prediction system gets seriously disrupted. All of a sudden, everything feels intensely important. Random events seem connected, totally filled with hidden meaning. The brain's reality-building engine is essentially creating a world that's supercharged with a significance that isn't really there.
Now, this reality-building engine doesn't just work on one person at a time. It actually scales up. So if your individual reality is a construct, then our shared reality is built from our collective stories. And these stories, they're where we process the parts of ourselves we don't quite understand, or maybe don't want to look at. It's what the famous psychoanalyst Carl Jung called the shadow. For a perfect example, just look at the Jedi Code. At its core, it's a philosophy of suppression, of denying emotion, denying passion. The goal is noble, for sure, peace and harmony, but by demanding that we push all that messy, powerful human stuff down, it forces it into the collective shadow.
And what happens when you try to suppress something, right? It almost always erupts with a vengeance. The Sith Code is the perfect mirror image of the Jedi. It embraces passion, anger, the self. It's all about finding power through emotion, but that very pursuit often ends up consuming them, turning them into slaves of their own desires.
And then you get a figure like Kreia from Knights of the Old Republic, who saw the trap in both of these extremes. She basically argued that blindly following any code, whether it's light or dark, is just another form of slavery. She believed true strength came from integrating these opposing forces, not surrendering your will to one or the other.
And this is the archetypal shadow in action. When our collective fears and desires aren't acknowledged, they manifest as monsters in our myths. Darth Nihilus becomes a literal void, a hunger that just consumes life. Abeloth, terrified of being abandoned, becomes a source of endless torment. These aren't just cool villains. They are projections of our own unintegrated psyche.
This shadow doesn't just stay in myths. It infects our real-world systems, too. The philosopher Manly P. Hall had a great term for it: acquired ignorance. It's when we stop seeking actual truth and instead just learn how to manipulate the rules for our own personal gain. It becomes a societal system built on self-deception, an ignorance that helps us justify the same mistakes over and over again.
Okay, so we've got a constructed reality, and it's haunted by a psychological shadow. But here's where things get really, really strange. Science itself seems to be hinting at a similar structure, a kind of mirror world that might be built right into the fabric of reality, suggesting our inner landscape may actually reflect some kind of external truth.
Okay, think about life's broken mirror. A lot of molecules come in two versions, a left-handed version and a right-handed version. They're identical but mirrored. And yet life on Earth, for some reason, almost exclusively chose one version over its twin.
It's a fundamental asymmetry, which proves that a kind of handedness is built into the fabric of biology itself.
Then in mathematics, there's this wild concept called sphere eversion. It's a way a sphere can be turned completely inside out without ever tearing or creasing it. It's a seamless geometric inversion. So think of that as a metaphor. Could consciousness do something similar at death? Not fade to nothing, but undergo a transition to an inverted, mirrored state?
When you start connecting these really disparate clues, a strange pattern begins to emerge. You've got life's molecular mirror, the way perception seems to flatten in altered states, the lucid experiences people have when clinically dead, and even this idea of our bodies as mere shadows. They all seem to hint at the possibility of another reality that is somehow an inside-out version of our own.
So let's bring this all back home. How do our constructed realities, our collective shadows, and these strange hints of a mirrored dimension, how do they all connect? Well, they connect through technology. We are now in the process of building the literal reflection of our inner ghosts. The engine that's driving all of this is something called hyperstition. It's this bizarre process where a story becomes so powerful that it stops just describing reality and actually starts creating it. These fictions and prophecies can literally shape our behavior until they manifest the very future they predicted. For instance, take Isaac Newton. Yeah, we remember him as a scientist, but he spent decades on theological study. He actually used biblical prophecy to calculate the year 2060, not as some apocalypse, but as the date for a new beginning, an idea so powerful it was trying to actively shape a future timeline.
Now look at these parallels. It's kind of eerie. On the left, you have ancient prophecies describing a single deceptive power that controls all economic activity. And on the right, well, that's our modern world. Vladimir Putin has said whoever controls AI will rule the world. We're building systems of digital currency and mass surveillance that could absolutely control who can buy or sell. And don't even get me started on AI deepfakes, which threaten to make mass deception trivial. It's like the prophecy provided a blueprint, and our tech is now the construction material.
So here it is, the crucial point laid out in 4 steps. 1. We have this collective, unintegrated shadow, all our fears, our ambitions. 2. This shadow gets expressed in our stories and prophecies. 3. Hyperstition turns those stories into self-fulfilling prophecies. And 4. Our technology, especially AI, becomes the ultimate tool to build those prophecies into the literal infrastructure of our world. We are actively manifesting our own shadow. And here is the absolutely terrifying problem. As the AI researcher Eliezer Yudkowsky warns, while we're building something with unbelievable power, we have no idea how to make it share our values. We can build it to be powerful, but we can't, not yet, build it to be good.
Just let that sink in for a second. We are giving godlike power to systems that have no moral compass, and the goals we're implicitly programming into them aren't based on wisdom. They're based on the unexamined shadow parts of our own psyche, our hunger for control, our tribalism, and our acquired ignorance.
And all this leaves us with one last big question. As we race to build this artificial superintelligence, are we really creating a tool to serve humanity, or are we just building a mirror that will finally show us the ghost that has been haunting us all along?